Welcome to From Head to Heart and Home. We're excited to have you here today listening in on our conversation. This is a channel created by women, empowering women to take intentional action to create the life they want. With your hosts, Shanda Soretti, certified transformational coach, and myself, Carla Center, relationship coach. So today, our juicy little topic is digging for approval. You know how we're always looking for what other people will think before we create things. Our actions, even our reactions are about, did somebody approve for us? So today we wanted to talk about that, how we dig in and look for approval from others when really things come from the inside.
Yeah, I love this. I'm excited to see where this goes. And one of the things I remember that rocked my world when I heard it was another coach saying something along the lines of, as long as you like your reasons for choosing whatever it is that you're choosing, and you can genuinely say that I like my reasons for XYZ, then that's what matters. So going back to, we don't need anybody's approval in life, right? To make choices, to do things, to take action. It's about checking genuinely and authentically and honestly with yourself. So if you're not able to go to those places, then that work needs to be done first to be able to be honest with yourself. But being able to have that relationship with yourself, first of all, so that you can have that conversation of what matters to me, right? And do I approve of myself? Okay. And another thing too, I think that's coming up that might be interesting is if people around us are disapproving, then like Carl and I always talk about, if the world outside of you is a mirror for the world inside of you, for what's happening inside of you, where do you not approve of yourself or your choices or your actions? So be super, super curious when you start to notice patterns around you or behaviors around you that you don't like, because it's likely a reflection of something that you're doing to yourself, that you're creating to yourself, that needs healing, that needs acknowledgement.
Right. And when you see certain patterns like that, write it down and journal about it, because that's how that curiosity while you're writing, because when we journal, as long as we're not trying to make it some like I'm writing a novel, instead make it about, just let me, whatever comes to my head, I'm going to write it out. So much will come to you. Your
Mm,
subconscious mind will bring stuff up when you're not being super analytical about it, when you're just letting it come,
yeah.
because then we can see all of those things like, oh, I'm worried that these people don't like what I do. I really want to shift, but I don't want somebody upset at me. Why do I really care? Is it that I don't really like the path I'm going on? Let me explore that, because I really feel like I want to go that way, but do I? Why deep down, why do I, or why do I not? Just have that curiosity on what is going on really deep inside of you, because everything starts within and comes without.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. Everything does start within. And so if there's something outside of us, right, that we feel uncomfortable about or don't agree with, for me, it's and this is the trick, is catching this and remembering this. And this does take work, trust you. So, um, it's seeing that flag, right, as like a reminder to, oh, hang on a second, where am I not doing this thing for myself, or where am I doing this thing to myself, right? So pay attention to those subtle cues. And it's typically like how they'll show up is when you feel triggered about something, right? You might feel unjust about something, or you might feel um, some sort of negative reaction in your body where you feel like a victim, you feel like it's not fair, you feel like whatever. That's the cue to be like, okay, hang on, there's some internal work here that is asking to be kind of tapped into and explored so that you can heal something. And you never know what you're going to find when you start, right? What initially triggered it might be totally different once you get down to the bottom where the root is, but it's definitely a great place to start.
Exactly. And knowing that if there's guilt and shame associated with, there's something in there. There's something. I mean, can people say things that are trying to shame us? Yes. But us accepting that shame is
Mhm.
100% ours.
Yeah.
Somebody can say something to you, but you are the one who gives it value,
Mm.
right? So if somebody said something to you, even if they said shame on you, and then you have this like feeling, that's
Right.
something yours.
Right. Right.
So
Yeah.
look at it.
Yeah, for sure. It's like also this is reminding me of like when we have judgment, right? Which by the way, judgment is a normal part of being human. That is back way back in the day when we needed to. It's how we assessed, our opponent or a threat, right? We had to judge it for our safety and such. But nowadays, we don't need that typically, most of us, thankfully, but it still shows up because it's a part of us. Right? It's wired into our DNA and our brain. And when we judge other people or judge other things outside of us, it says more about you than it does about whatever you're judging. So that's a beautiful thing to know because we can flip that around to a very empowering statement around if someone is judging you and saying things about you that are not true, then you can affirm yourself that whatever judgments they're passing on to you has nothing to do with you and everything to do with them. So you can kind of just let them roll off your back. I think there's a saying around water off a duck's back or something like that, right? You can
Yes.
just let them drift, like melt down and wash away because it's not about you. Don't take that on.
Right. And so that's where that if you get this understanding of other people's judgments, other people's comments, for the most part, has to do with them. Maybe somebody will come to you with some concerns.
Mm,
If you want to look at them, you can look at them, but you have to be like, where did this come from for them? And where did it come from for me? Is
mm.
it something that really doesn't feel like has anything to do with me? Because people do like to keep stuff in a box. And if you
Right,
are outside their box, it
right.
makes them uncomfortable, but that does not make you wrong.
Right. Yeah. And people only know us for how we've shown up. So
Yes.
if we haven't shown up authentically, we haven't been showing up as who we are. We've been hiding things, tweaking things, editing things, distilling things, whatever, not showing up authentically. And then one day we're like, I'm going to start doing this thing. People are going to notice and it's going to ruffle feathers. That doesn't mean it's not right to do what you're doing, but it does mean you need to understand that, like Carla was saying, we put things in boxes and people put things in boxes, including how people show up. We have manuals for people, right? Like how this person behaves this way, and if they do something outside of that manual, like what the heck, I don't have a page for this, I don't have a chapter, and we like freak
Right.
out. That's just human
Right.
nature. Once again, it doesn't make it wrong. It just means that you need to decide boldly, is this something that I want to commit to moving forward, right? Even if and even when it ruffles feathers and even when
Right.
people don't like it, because I find for the majority of us, we want everyone to just be happy. We want everyone to like us. We want everyone to accept us or understand or whatever it is. But 100% is like never possible. And I think I can say that in confidence. Like,
Right.
we're never going to have everybody's approval. We're never going to have everybody's support. We're never going to have everybody's love or hate. Right. So it does work both ways. So it is a beautiful thing when we can look at it,
Right.
like back up a minute and see, okay, if I don't have everybody's support all the time, 100%, I also don't have everybody's judgment 100% of the time. Right. So, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm
Yeah.
trying to compare it as how we can flip it to the positive. But yeah, so I think it's really important to be able to understand that aspect for sure.
Right. And sometimes when you change, like when I started having boundaries, because I was no boundaries, I I will be very much the one to admit I didn't have boundaries. I allowed things. I did not take responsibility for the fact that I allowed things. I would be a victim instead. People that somebody acted this way towards me, but I hadn't had boundaries, right? And once I take responsibility and like, okay, these are some boundaries that will be very helpful for me
Hmm.
and feel right for me. I don't always like them. And one of those reasons is because that is not what we taught them was okay behavior towards us.
Right. I love that you're talking about the victim mentality because that is something that comes up a lot. And if you're at the beginning of your healing journey, then it's not typically an easy term. But Carla and I talk about it a lot here. So just know that when we use this word, this term, we send so much love and compassion
Yep.
and for people's experiences, and know that we were once there too, right?
Yes.
Feeling the same thing, having the similar experiences. And what I do want to share is that when we jump into victim mentality, we're choosing the scapegoat. Being the victim is easy because then it makes it about everybody else, and it's everybody else's fault and everybody else's problem, right? It's saying, I put my hands up, I have nothing to do with this, or I can't
Right.
fix this, or I can't, right? So it's giving your power away, right? Like when you think of a victim,
Yes.
I picture like this, right? And I'm like,
Right.
if that's a perfect picture for giving your power away, I don't know what is. So
Right.
my encouragement is, yes, it's going to be uncomfortable. Yes, it's going to be a challenge. Yes, it's going to be different and it will require different things of you. But choosing the hard thing, meaning choosing to keep yourself out of or step out of victimhood so that you can actually experience the reward of that, the reward of recalling back in your own power so that you can take charge of your life again and actually be the driver in the driver's seat of your life to allow the things that you want to see happen, because they won't happen if you're not in the driver's seat.
Right. And as you recalibrate, understand those around you are going to recalibrate too. So if
Yeah.
you're looking for their approval, you're not allowing them to do so. If
Hmm.
you're like, okay, I can't do this because they don't approve, then you haven't given yourself the permission to do the things that feel right for you, that support where you want to go.
Yeah.
And you're not allowing them to calibrate to this is the new thing
Hmm.
that the person I love wants to do. And it may feel uncomfortable to me because I'm not used to it. But that's okay because I will learn to adapt.
Hmm. Yeah. And the thing about that you just said about permission, again, I want to touch on that because I'm like, this is brilliant. Permission is on you, the person, the individual. So, and this is always the case, right? So, um, we are giving ourselves permission to give our power away. We're giving ourselves permission to reclaim our power. We're giving ourselves permission to take action or to not take action, right? To be in inaction. So if like that could be a really interesting question to ask yourself, right? Like for every situation, how am I giving myself permission in this circumstance or in this experience? Where am I allowing myself or denying myself the permission, right? Because we're doing one of two things, but we are the one who is in control of that decision, of that permission. So once again, bringing it back to self. So this is a very, which typically our conversations usually are about self. That's one of the biggest core beliefs that we have and want to
Yes.
share with you, right? Is that everything starts within, everything comes from within. And when we see things that are not, or sorry, what is it, missing, is it incongruent, that are not that are not congruent with what we want, there we go, not in alignment with what we want, then again, coming back to that, it's a flag of, hey, something's not in alignment here. What can I do? What is my part in this to bring it back into alignment, right?
Right. Right. And that's and if you feel like things aren't happening the way you want, those are the best ways. Instead of, I mean, we talk about empowerment and disempowerment, but I love how Shando just put it. Like, where are we giving ourselves permissions
Yeah.
and not permissions to do
Mhm.
to do the things that we envision ourselves doing? And that's beautiful because I think sometimes people get hung up on the what's empowering, what's disempowering, but where
Right.
are you giving yourself the permissions
Yeah.
and not allowing yourself? Like that's a good way to start out thinking about it. Like, where am I going and where am I like we talk about it often, fear. Where am I not making choices because I'm allowing the fear? So I'm not giving myself permission to do these things that
Mm.
really are sending me forward towards what I want.
Yeah. And like we always say too, fear is going to be there. So let go of the idea that one day you won't experience it because it's going to be there. We just react differently toward it. So ask yourself when fear is present, first of all, we acknowledge it and let it be okay that it's there, but ask yourself, how can I be brave or how can I be bold in this moment? If I don't like what's happening, if I'm not content with my experience, if I wish it were different, how can I be bold right here, right now to change that? Right? What can I do? What is the smallest thing that I could do to start to shift that? Because sometimes it's not always a simple one action thing and it's done, right? Sometimes it is. Sometimes it's literally just stepping through something and then you're like, oh, wow, okay, I did it, right? Or saying yes to something or saying no to something. But sometimes it's much deeper than that. And I'll even say like a much older root where it's been years and years. Like if it's a pattern or something, this is going to be something that we have to chip away at, right?
Yeah.
Consistently over a certain period of time while we work on many other things at the same time, right? Like our beliefs and our thoughts and stuff like that. But what is the smallest action that I can do? What is the smallest thing I can do for myself right now where I can start to step into feeling brave, feeling bold, and like I'm in control again?
Right. It's creating that momentum.
Yeah.
Even the smallest thing starts momentum.
Yeah, it is the small thing, right? Like there's a quote I heard years ago when I first started coaching, and it was small hinges swing big doors, right? Meaning it's those little things that we often overlook or take for granted that make the biggest impact on our lives, right? Another way that I heard it, and I thought this was brilliant too, was that um, tomorrow, how does it go? Tomorrow is a bunch of right nows piled on to like your future is a bunch of right nows piled on top of each other, right? So it's very clear when we look at that idea, we can very clearly see how we got to where we are from that stack
Right.
of meat sandwiches, whatever, lettuce, onions, whatever it is, right? Like we can look at the stack and be like, oh, those are all my decisions and they brought me here. Whoa,
Right.
right?
Right.
Yeah. So what kind of
Right.
sandwich do you want to eat?
Exactly.
Choose your layers wisely.
Exactly. Because when
Yeah.
you look at it, you'll be like, is this what I really want? And
Mhm.
so if the thing that's keeping you from taking that small step forward is looking for the approval of others, realize that that has something to do with deep down somebody's approval you've been craving for a very long time,
Hmm.
and it has kept you where you are. But you can make those small steps and learn to start approving of yourself, which makes you less in need of approval from somebody else.
Yeah. Beautiful. Love it. Yeah.
You have any more you'd like to share?
No, I think the last piece that I want to end with is just the encouragement. Like, I'm going to reaffirm what you said at the beginning around journaling. So, just paying attention to what we begin to notice, because so often we can want to just try and jump right into the change work and start changing things right away. But what I have learned from personal experience, time and time and time again, is that before we jump into changing anything, we actually need to understand where we are and what we're in order to change in the direction that we want, right? So don't try to rush the process. The encouragement here would just be to be curious, open up, um, pay attention, kind of what I would say is like turn up the dial and eavesdrop on yourself and either journal or meditate, right? Just really start to kind of open up that connection and that communication within yourself. Yeah,
Right. And the awareness that comes from doing that is beautiful.
right.
Beautiful.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. If you have not subscribed, don't forget to hit the subscribe button below. And if there's anybody in your life that you feel could benefit from this conversation or any of our conversations, please share.
Mm.
We are here to be supportive. If you want to reach out to either of us, in the description, you'll find the links to get a hold of us. And we are excited to have you each week. So please join us next week for our next connected conversation. Bye bye for now.